Welcome back, everyone. This mini presentation will serve as your refresher to reacquaint you with the strong evaluation system. This also serves as the mandated training that all staff must undergo at the beginning of each school year. Remember that effectiveness is the goal, but the evaluation model is just merely the means. The framework for teacher evaluation really begins with an understanding for what is effective teaching. And that framework that James Strong builds upon for designing and implementing the teacher evaluation system is drawn from the research on teacher effectiveness, and that is drawn from the characteristics that you see here. So what is the basis for the evaluation system as we assess effectiveness? Well, there are three main components. You'll see the performance standard at the top. Next, you will see the indicators. And finally is the performance rubric. The performance standards really define the criteria expected when teachers perform their major duties. There are 7 performance standards for teachers as well as 7 for ed specialists. Next, the performance indicators. They provide research-based examples of observable, tangible behaviors that indicate the degree to which teachers are meeting each teaching standard. We often call these the look-fors. And then finally is the rubric. During each observation, as well as the summative evaluation, the evaluator will use a preponderance of evidence to judge where the teacher should be rated. So the basis of teacher evaluation relies on 7 performance standards. I will briefly speak about each one. Standard 1, professional knowledge. This relates to how well teachers understand the subject content, how best to teach the material, and how the material connects to other areas of the curriculum, as well as their understanding of the developmental needs and levels of the students in their classes. Instructional planning relates to whether teachers are using the prescribed curricula and standards to plan lessons, and whether they're using data to inform their planning, and whether that planning addresses the strategies and resources necessary to meet the different needs of all of their students. This means that when a teacher is planning for differentiated activities within the classroom, that he or she needs to consider the needs of the high ability students as well as those in the middle and at the lower end. Standard 3, instructional delivery. This standard looks at what types of instructional strategies teachers use. Does the teacher use the same strategy for all students every day? Or does the teacher modify strategies to engage students in active learning? Does the teacher take individual learning differences into consideration when instructing? Standard 4, assessment of and for learning. This standard not only looks at the types of assessment strategies teachers use, but also instructional uses. Are the assessments appropriate both for the content and the students for the class? Is the teacher gathering, analyzing, and using the data to inform instruction? And does the teacher use data to measure student progress and provide feedback to both students and parents? Standard 5, learning environment. This standard focuses on whether the teacher provides a safe, secure environment where all students are respected and where rules and routines are in place to ensure the classroom is conducive to learning. Is the environment intellectually challenging? Are there high expectations for all students? And are students encouraged to take intellectual risks? Standard 6, professionalism. This standard really has 3 parts: behaving as we expect educational professionals to behave, communicating to appropriate stakeholders using an appropriate method, and professional development. Note that professional growth results in enhanced student learning. In other words, it is not enough to just go to a workshop or go to a conference. The teacher really needs to show that they applied that knowledge in the classroom and that it made a difference in student learning. Speaking about student learning, we move into the last standard, which is Standard 7, student progress. This is the standard that relates to your students' progress on the goals that you have set for them. Teachers create 2 goals based on pre-assessment data. They should be aligned to standards and measured using high-quality assessments of various types. So the basis of the ed specialist evaluation is very similar. They're also assessed on 7 standards, Many of them are similar, but there are a few that are different. I will just very briefly just go over those standards. So number 2, the program planning and management. This really relates to the ed specialist's effective scheduling and time management skills. Do they identify and manage available resources to address their learners' needs and the program's needs? Program delivery really relates to whether or not the ed specialist uses their professional knowledge to implement a variety of services for their caseload or the targeted learning community. For assessment, this looks at how well the ed specialist gathers, analyzes, and uses data to determine, their learners or program needs, and measures their students' progress or the program's progress. Communication and collaboration. This really looks at how well the ed specialist supports, promotes, and communicates the mission, vision, and goals of the school and the district. How well do they collaborate with stakeholders and respond promptly, to the learner, the family, the staff, and the community as a whole? So those are just some of the differences between the ed specialist evaluation standards and the teacher's standards. So how is performance documented and how is it measured? Well, observations are a very important part of the evaluation system. Observations will comprise of an unannounced and an announced formal or informal observation. There are 3 observations for non-tenured and 2 for tenured teachers. All observations will include a post-conference. Only the announced observations will require a pre-conference. Student growth objectives or goal setting for student progress. This is a process to set student growth objectives based on pre-assessment data. These account for 15% of the teacher's evaluation, and it should be aligned to standards and measured using high-quality assessments of various types. Your deadline for establishing your SGOs is October 31st. Artifacts. We really believe that teachers should have some say in their own evaluation. And the artifacts provides them with an opportunity to provide evidence that they are meeting the standards. Try to compile 2 artifacts that relate to each professional standard, and preferably that align to your observations. Finally, the student surveys. These provide yet another source of data on teacher performance. Remember that you retain access to the actual survey results. Your job is to include a survey summary as one of your artifacts, as well as the results. As well as using the results as formative feedback. So you're only uploading the survey summary as an artifact in My Learning Plan. So student surveys present just an additional source of information, which is really nice. You may add questions to the survey, but you shouldn't remove any of the original questions. Feel free, if you'd like to use a Google form to survey your students. I have one pre-made, so you can email me and I can share that with you. If you would like to give a hard copy, that's fine as well. Remember, you take a look at the survey summary results and you just share a summary within My Learning Plan. Depending on your schedule, so depending on if you are running a semester course or a full year course, will determine when you actually provide that initial survey and the final survey. Usually the initial survey should be conducted at the end of marking period 1. For all schools. If you're on a full year, you can provide the final survey at the end of marking period 3. If you're on a semesterized schedule, you most likely do it at the end of marking period 2. That's really up to you. Okay, so here is just a sample of what one of the standards looks like, okay, from the summative evaluation form. So the evaluator will rate each standard using a preponderance of evidence from multiple data sources. These are the terms used in the rating scale. While you receive a rating for each standard, for each observation, the focus really should be on that formative feedback. But notice that teachers who are highly effective consistently and considerably surpass their performance standard. These teachers serve as role models to others. Teachers who are effective are high quality teachers. They consistently meet the standard. So please do not be misled thinking that effective is not high quality. It is. Partially effective means that the teacher is inconsistent with meeting the standards. These may be teachers who are new to the profession and may not have developed the skill set needed. Or they may be teachers who are more experienced but need improvement in a particular area. In either case, these teachers do not demonstrate the level of proficiency required of them. And teachers who are ineffective consistently perform below the standard. So how is performance evaluated? Remember, your teaching practice serves as 85%, and the SGO performance is 15%. This equates to the overall evaluation score. Remember, this is for your summative. So the summative rating is the overall score that combines the multiple measures of teacher practice and student growth that we had just talked about. This shows the weights related to each standard, and this shows how the composite score during the summative is actually calculated. So taking into consideration teacher practice and the SGO score, a composite score is generated. Notice this teacher falls in the 2.99 range, so they are effective. Any teacher who receives an overall summative rating of partially effective or ineffective will be placed on a corrective action plan. And this is implemented instead of a professional development plan for these teachers. So overall, remember that non-tenured teachers are observed at least 3 times per year. There's always going to be a formal and an informal observation. Observations will be at least 20 minutes in duration, most likely more. Additional observations at building level can really be conducted at the administrator's discretion. The evaluator inquires about the formal observation during the pre-conference, and the evaluator has to provide feedback during the post-observation conference within 10 days of the observation. Ultimately, the foundation upon which a teacher evaluation system is built is that the classroom, not the school, is the place where we must focus on improved student performance. And we know that when one teacher improves her or his capacity to help students learn, then only then does school improvement occur. And the reason is quite simple. Teacher success equals student success. So remember, we're all in this together. Have a great year. And if you have any questions about the Strong Evaluation Model, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you and have a great school year.